All right. First of all, thank you everybody for coming out. I'll try and be a little bit loud so people over here can hear. You know, we got a lot to go over in this meeting, so if we can, just, I know normally we kind of do it where anybody can just chime in whenever. Let's just kind of hold off for comments or questions until designated spots will stop, just to make it a little bit more easy to get through all the information. But I'm amazed by how many people came out. So thank you so much. That's awesome. Anybody who's meeting, who's in the virtual, please mute your mic. And then you can use the raise hand button or post questions in the chat.
Chat will be monitored.
Chat will be monitored. The talking stick. It's a talking stick. All right, so today is January 16th. This is the monthly membership meeting for FamiLAB. Again, thank you for everybody that came out. Go over a quick financial update, just the normal things, and then at the end is where we get to the real meat and potatoes of, you know, what's going on with the lab and why we have so many people here in the boat and all that kind of stuff. So membership numbers did, I believe, go down this month, mostly I think because of the email. Not that we shouldn't have sent that email, but I think it may have scared people to the point to where they don't want to move or downsize, so they bailed. I know we lost at least 2, but we did gain 1. Is that BNL accurate for this month or?
Yes.
Okay. Last month. So last month we were negative 375.29. It's been kind of negative for the past however long you guys know this, if you've been keeping up on it or if you've read any of the materials that we put out lately. If we look back at the average, it was negative, averaging 700, so 300 is a little bit better this last month. We got a $100 donation for the laser, and then we also got a little bit of an increase because we sent out the email to a list that may have been old. Now that I've realized what happened, to current members, asking them to increase their dues to whatever they possibly can afford, with a recommended of an increasing $25, because we'll get into it later, but $75 is the mark that we wanted to hit at this point for membership. Not very many did that, but I think the list might have been old. I heard a lot of people didn't get the email, and when we sent out the list sent out the email for this meeting, we readjusted the list along with, just readjust the list for all more current numbers. I think I actually sent the old numbers too. Stop there. Does anybody have any questions about any of that right now?
At $75 a month for all current members, would we be able to stay in this space?
We'll get into that later, but the short answer is no.
How about at $100?
Possibly we'd have to go through and do that, but let's wait on the movement and all that kind of stuff. Any questions on moving and downsizing, we can go over that in a little bit at the end. So general updates, board of directors still needs people on the board. Myself and Mark have joined. I think Mark's been a little bit busy though lately, and the rest of the members are either at term or they just need to go because they're too busy, they're moving, all of everything that's involved, they have to bail. So we need more board members. Technically, legally, to be a 501c3 in Florida, you have to have 3 board members. So if we can't even do that, that's going to be a huge problem. So we need anybody that's interested. The board right now has a lot more responsibilities than what a board would normally do, but if you have any questions about it, get with one of the board members or one of the long-term members, and they can kind of help you talk through what that involves. Clean up after yourself, C-section title. We've had this on here for I think a couple months now. We did see that there was some lapse in cleaning up after yourself when you're using things like the woodworking tools or any type of tools. The 3D printers have come in a couple times where it looks like there was a mishap with the 3D printer and there's still pieces of plastic laying everywhere. The reason we want to focus on that a lot is because if we're trying to get new members and we're walking into the space and it looks like an absolute clutter, it's not a good look for us. No matter how many fun tools we have, if it looks like we don't take care of them, they're probably not going to join. So let's make sure we're cleaning up after ourselves really good. Along that same lines, we're doing a January house cleaning. Basically, every Sunday, starting last Sunday, I'm going through and I'm walking and trying to find things that need to be cleaned up. This is actually changing based off of the vote today, but it also helps us clean up things that are like, there was a lot of metal shavings that were kind of pushed to the side, things like that, you know, could have just been easily cleaned up. So we're gonna go through and walk, kind of organize and clean up a little bit. But again, with the vote, the result of the vote, it might change to things like helping sell items or get items ready for moving, depending on what we're doing. Membership numbers, we kind of already went over the numbers itself, but we have been doing an outreach meeting. I've been hosting an outreach meeting that's every other Thursday. And basically that's people that are not only throwing ideas out there, but people that are able to follow through with those ideas. Because that's one of the biggest problems. I love all of the ideas that everybody's giving us, but when we ask for people to follow through or help with those, they just don't have time or don't know how. Grants is a good example. I've had grants, people ask me a million times about grants. When I say, do you know how to do it? They say no. If I ask if you can look into it, some of them follow through, some of them don't. I know Mark's been kind of working on that, but we need more people on all of this stuff. Remember, this was a member-run space. So right now, it's almost board-run at this point. We need members to be involved in that outreach, and we need members to help get more members in. And that's going to go whether, you know, we stay in this space, if that's even feasible, versus moving. It doesn't matter. Even if we move, that's not a complete fix. We still need outreach to happen. We need members to continuously join. And we also need other forms of funding, which we'll get into. The Apple Log laser, it's cost increase. Sorry. Good call. Member dues have increased, like we mentioned earlier. Member dues have increased to $75 for new members. It was kind of just a decision we made as the board because we needed it to happen. And having this many people to actually do the votes like our bylaws permit or suggest, we haven't seen in a long time. So that was one thing that we were doing to kind of try and at least start the fix of what we're going to do with the space. Obviously, it won't matter if we're going to move it down. But moving forward, it's something we really want to think about when we move to the next space, because if we're going to move, we're not going to change that. That still needs to be 75 in order for us to be successful. That could go down later if we get other forms of funding, but $75 is a good rate when you consider in 2009, we were $50. 3% increase over that course of time would put us over $77. So it's still a decent rate. It's just
Inflation adjusted.
Yeah, inflation wise, it's inflation. It's still a decent rate. It's just, you know, why are we charging $75 when it's a mess? Tools aren't fixed, tools aren't working. If you have to come in and fix a bunch of tools before you start working on something, that kind of puts people off to that $75. But that is an increase. And again, if we continue to get more member interaction and members showing up to the meetings, we can bring that up for a vote and we can vote that back down. So, because when I said that, I saw a few faces that were kind of like, ooh, that's a lot. And it is for makers that are trying to cut corners and trying to be cheap about things. It's a considerable amount in my mind. So it is something that can be voted down as long as we have more member interaction. At this point, the board is just making decisions because we have to make decisions.
We are trying to be good stewards of the lab with what tools we're given.
Correct. So moving on, the FamiLAB laser is fixed. Thank you to everybody involved.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that was quite an undertaking. Just to give everybody a rundown of an explanation of why it took so long is that member funded thing. You remember the member funded, it's your dues. We probably haven't explained this enough as we should have, and taking on new members lately. Dues really, now they're not even paying the bills, but they're more just to pay the bills. So when tools get broken or need to be replaced or things like that, we need additional donations in order to take that on. So in terms of the laser, we're looking at $2,600 to get a refurbished tube. Or we could send it off to get charged for $600 to another third party. So
well-regarded third party.
Yeah, well-regarded third party. So we sent it off to that third party, and they had the worst customer service, the worst interaction that I've ever seen in my entire life. I believe one of Mike's emails to them just said the word "please" so that he could get a response from them. Surprisingly, it worked too. But even calling them, it's not like we just shot emails and waited for that. Call them, I left I don't know how many voicemails. We would get things like, it's going out tomorrow, or it's going out next week, or we'll give you an answer next week, or, so it never really, until we finally said, look, we need it back, or we need it fixed. You need to make it happen. Eventually, that happened. I think even then the refund took forever, so it wasn't a good experience, but we were trying to save money for the lab because we didn't have those extra donations. It turned out, blew up in our face. We sent it to that blog, paid the $2,000, $2,600, whatever it was. Now it's fixed. But, we're a negative 300 last month. Now with the $2,000 laser bill this month, we're going to be probably negative 2,300 plus. So just something to consider when you see those broken tools and those, things that need fixed or could use fixing. Just remember that it is member funded completely. Right now there's no other, without outreach being successful at all, there's no other type of funding other than membership. Social media, we always need more content for social media. I slowed down a little bit because I was taking on a lot more tasks, trying to get back on that. I know we did some woodworking stuff the other day. You sent me some pictures I'm going to post. It really doesn't matter what it is. If it's something you've done a million times, if it's something you just played around with, take a picture of it, or to test a test piece, take a picture of it and send it over to me, and I will get it posted on social media. If you are interested in helping with social media, that would be extremely helpful because, again, taking on a lot more tasks, and I'm the only one doing the social media right now. So,
and that doesn't mean a lot. That means maybe a couple of posts per week would be amazing. Awesome, if you can manage even that much.
I know everybody here loves Facebook, right? So one thing I do like about Facebook when it comes to posting is their ability to schedule posts. So the reason I fell off posts was because what I would do is every couple of weeks, I would just set up a week's worth of posts. I think you can go up to 30 days out. So you can go on just once every couple of weeks, schedule a whole bunch of posts, and it'll automatically post at the time that you post it. And it'll even post to Instagram if we have it linked, it'll post automatically to Instagram. The other option is I can give you access to MailChimp. We've been using that. I believe there's integration right now with Facebook, Instagram, and that other one, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Filled all their integrations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They've been shot to hell.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Just use Facebook.
I mean, you can still use Twitter. You just don't. You have to do things manually.
Yeah, you have to do it manually. So
But it does let you log in and pre-schedule things.
you can
just
pre-schedule on Twitter.
Yeah,
See how
on
much
social
I love
media
Twitter.
networks you can schedule a post,
Perfect.
but you just have to go to that network and do it on that one site individually.
Right.
So,
Yes.
It's lame, but it's like there is a solution.
and it's a big network, which means it's not worth ignoring.
So I believe I skipped sponsors too.
Yes.
Brian, you were supposed to help me out.
I thought you were just flipping it around.
So Elegoo sponsored us. I don't know if you guys saw. Elegoo sponsored us with the Neptune 4, which has been pretty awesome. It seems to be working pretty good. We have been seeing a lot of clogs and things lately. Make sure your first layer goes down. And then make sure you put your name in front of it so we know who to contact, because I have a feeling whoever was having those problems didn't realize they were having those problems. They just came in, their print was gone. They probably thought, oh, maybe it failed because of something silly. I'll restart the print, and then it, same failures. So make sure you're putting your name down. Keep an eye on Slack, because that's where we're going to communicate with you on it. But yeah, Miller Electric, I don't know how it happened. Gio's not here, right?
Nope.
I don't know how it happened. I was looking at the email trail that he sent me. I think he had met somebody from Miller Electric and during an open house, and they sponsored some PPE for the welding stuff. I don't know if has anybody been over there to see if it came in? I think Gio went out of town. That's why he's not here. I think it might be at his house right now. It still needs to come in, but I don't know exactly what it is. It's just more PPE, probably gloves, masks, things like that, for welding, which is pretty awesome. Wham Bam reached out to us during Maker Fair. They gave us business cards, said we'd like to sponsor Maker Spaces, so I reached out to them. They gave us a couple slab mats and some flex plates for the 3D printers. I installed the flex plates. They seem pretty awesome. One's like a nice smooth finish. The other one is textured on both sides.
Yeah, they're smooth or textured PEI sheets.
Yeah. The slab mats are out in the workshop because I think that's where they would get the most use, except for there is one up above the soldering station over there because it also works good for soldering. If you guys have any questions on what the slab mats are, just let me know after the meeting and we'll go over that. But it's cool. We got a couple sponsors now, but the biggest thing is I need those pictures. I need social media. Otherwise, they're not going to continue to sponsor us. And we're not going to get other sponsors. We need to post pictures of them being used. Right. I can post pictures that we got them and the flex plate's cool. It's there. It's installed. But now I want pictures with the print on it. People using the slab mats, gluing things up, and whatnot. So, and then that ties into the social media aspect there. Events and classes, I'll get to you guys' questions. I know I saw a couple of hands raised up, so just hang on there for me.
Sorry, I broke it.
Yeah. Figured it was your fault. Weekly 3D print hangout is every Monday. It kind of fell through yesterday because I had some people ask about woodworking and I got tied up back there showing them a few things last minute, and we completely forgot about it. So I apologize to anybody that showed up then or wanted to show up for 3D printing and nobody was around. But that's one of the things is I'm getting pulled in every direction that I've been asking a couple meetings now. I need somebody to take that over. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll show you what you do. You basically unlock the door and sit there, and when people show up, you talk about 3D printing. It's a hangout. It's not a one-on-one. It's not teaching. It's not anything like that. It's hang out with people.
Yep, hang out, talk about 3D printing because 3D printing is cool, and go on tangents for things that are not 3D printing because it's a hangout.
And don't bring up Bamboo with Brian.
Bamboo the company is the problem. Bamboo the printer is not as much.
Laser 101 is that because you see today I am going to adjust it because obviously it is not good timing to have it right before the meeting. I also need to make it a little bit longer because the people I just went through, you realize I flew through that. It should have been at least 2 to 3 hours, I imagine, to go over more detailed of how it works and to have you guys actually run it and do your tests. So we will be readjusting that. I'll be making it a little bit longer, and we might even adjust to where we have an epilogue 101 and then a boss 101, just because I think there's less interest in the boss, first of all, and they are two different machines used differently.
Historically, Laser 101 has been the Saturday after the member meeting
Right.
because it gives people something else to come out to right after becoming a member.
Yeah, but member meetings are already so late. I know in the past there's been a lot of people that like the late meetings. I am not usually one to do late meetings, so it's kind of harder for me to do that,
No, I said
especially.
the weekend after.
I thought you said after.
Yeah.
Okay, well, either way, that's something I'd like to talk about later is meetings, and if during the day, weekends, things like that are a little bit better, but gotcha. Fiber Arts is weekly. It's every Sunday at 3? 3. Every Sunday at 3. Christine, where is she?
Just went to the
Oh, okay, good time. So she is extremely knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. So I show up, I don't really do much while I'm there because I'm not interested in doing this stuff, but I love learning things. So I always pick her brain about different things like sewing and whatnot. But definitely show up to that if you're interested, crocheting, showing, knitting, pretty much anything fiber arts. In fact, on the 28th, there is a cosplay. So her meeting for January 28th, there's a cosplay workshop. There's a flyer over there on the wall. I forget what exactly it is. I might have her talk about it, but Lovey might be going to get it for me. But anyway, it's like fiber arts, but it's geared around,
Sewing.
it's around sewing for cosplay. Awesome. Isn't there's somebody else supposed to be there?
Yeah, there's someone presenting.
Okay, so yeah, there's a special presentation by Alicia, it looks like, on how to build cosplay for your dreams, Halloween costumes, things like that. So it sounds like it's mostly sewing workshop, but if there's somebody there making cosplay, I'm sure they don't just sew. So you can always learn something new there. Okay, so let me, again, questions not about the move. Dana just walked away. Who else had a question?
I was gonna say something.
Yeah.
I started contacting people on Slack this past week, and I promised to look into grant writing techniques, and I did that today. Two of the major problems is I don't think we have a strong mission statement, and I have no idea what the budget on it. Those are two big things that need to happen before a grant can be written. But if you want, I will follow through with it, and I will try to make you guys proud. If you do need somebody to help write grants, I'm learning how to do it.
All right, do me a favor. Any of the information you need, message it over to me so that I can either get you that information or find the right person.
What's your name on Slack?
A.M. Remington?
Oh,
You
so,
can-
okay.
You
We've been
can always ask
talking.
in lab ops and management as well.
Yes.
All right.
We also have questions from the chat as well. From all
Okay.
I've spoken with the Central Florida Foundation, and they said they're willing to help us work on getting our profile up, but someone had said there is a profile already available for FamiLAB. I just need that, so that we can have that conversation.
Okay.
It's short.
One thing about that is that it might be old, so.
It's up to date as of last year, 2022.
So it's not that old.
But the other thing is to consider just the lab changes coming up soon. I want to make sure that's depending on which way we go. Go ahead, Dina.
Hey, so something I just recently learned is that there are people that professionally write grants.
Yes.
Wasn't sure if anyone else knew that because I just found out about it.
I just figured it'd be another expense. It would be something definitely to
Well,
look into.
Yeah,
You're gonna,
but maybe it might cost us $500 this
Right.
month and get us $10,000 for the next year.
right, I agree.
That might be nice.
Agree.
Yeah. Could I have a few minutes to speak about the move?
We haven't
Let's
gotten
wait
there
until
yet.
let's wait until we get there. But yes, you can.
We've got someone online who's got their hand raised.
Aaron.
Okay.
Eric.
Give me a second.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, so about the 3D printing meetup, so say if somebody else wanted to take on the 3D printing meetup, but had something to do on a Monday, like their schedule Monday-wise is taken up, is there another day possibly we could move the 3D printing meetup to, and then just have it on a different day to whoever wants to take on that? Because I wouldn't mind taking it on, but it's just, again, Mondays is just not the best day. So what would you say to if somebody were to take it over, possibly a schedule change for it?
Okay, so I'm actually glad you brought that up, and I meant to mention it before. For the 3D printing, it's still pretty new, and there really hasn't been. There's been a good amount of people to show up, but it's not amazing. It's not like 20, 30 people to where a schedule change is going to cause a lot of problems. So I would say in that regard, just we'll throw it on the calendar and see what happens. the thing is that, we have Slack, we have the communication. If you want to join 3D printing, but, you know, if people want to join 3D printing, but they think another day will work, they can suggest it, you get enough suggestions, you can adjust the schedule, but that would be fine with me. I don't think, again, I don't think there's very many people, showing up that there would be too many objections. So I would say, yeah, just let us know when you want to do it. We'll put it on the schedule and change it.
The host of the event has a lot of.
Sounds good.
When it happens.
Yeah, it's pretty much any of the events the host has. I mean, the host is in control of the entire event, so.
Since this is relatively new, what if there are two people interested in hosting it, host it on the date that most people know now, and then that secondary date, and see which one has bigger turnout,
Absolutely.
and kind of merge them together.
Absolutely. If anybody, the thing is if you have time to host anything, you're welcome to host it. I don't care if there's 3D printing every day. If somebody's going to be here every day to sit there and talk about 3D printing, I love you. So it's just go for it. I mean, that is a good, absolutely good, good question.
It does bring up a bigger issue, which has to do with, you know, getting media attention for what we're doing. I mean, we're doing a lot of interesting things in the community. Nobody really knows about it. And with the funding and other issues, not having a wider known profile in the community may make it harder to get donations and things. However, if we start getting news stations involved, you might actually find that other big donors might step up and help us out. So I think it's having a list of things that we're doing will help us in both ways.
Yeah, and in terms of events, having events, even just to hang out, like I've been saying for a while with the 3D printing, I just like 3D printing, so I did a hangout and people showed up. We talk about 3D printing. If you're working on a specific project, and then say you're working on a woodworking project, set up a woodworking hangout. They can watch what you're doing and talk about it, and you can kind of explain what you're doing. It doesn't need to be a class, doesn't need to be teaching, but the point is the more of that we have, and the more public it is through our social media and our blog, the more the lab is gonna succeed in every way. Whether it be, like Mark said, through grants and funding, proving that we're doing stuff with the community, or just people coming into those events and realizing that they want to be a member and joining. So it's not just membership, but it's overall. That is the biggest thing that we can do in order to improve the space.
So this is kind of a mixture between funding and social media. And I brought this up a little bit, but I didn't get much of a response. But one of the things that Twitch has is that you can also now, they have like charity integration built into their platform now, or kind of you use like Stream Elements or some other third party to get things, make things work. But FamiLAB shows up in there now. I've been in there for like a couple of months. And I added it to my own channel as a streamer, but what would probably be a very good idea is to, one, we should try to put something together so that way if we're trying to pitch other people that understand my audience, it's difficult to just at random tell them like, oh yeah, there's this cool place. We can have something that could probably help. We can put something together that I can show off, but I can also then go to other streamers I collaborate with and see if I can get them to also say, hey, can you put that as a charity for your channel and see if we get people to kind of bring more people in. That could provide a kind of exposure, particularly if it's worldwide like that. But I guess my point was that it's something we probably should explore a little bit more.
So that's a good example of what outreach meeting is for. Ideas like that, and then talking about who can actually do it. I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah, I'm not very good at selling things on that. That's my problem. Is that like I was hoping somebody else might be a little bit more eloquent in that.
Right.
And so
we're getting the ideas. Getting the ideas to start. The point I was getting at is that I'm not a streamer, so that's why I didn't follow through with it. But there are, if you're a streamer, that's something to look into and maybe work with them and see, or work with me or one of the other active members to come up with something that they could spin up and say.
I do have plans to speak to a couple that I collaborated at a recent Twitch meetup. Some of them are aware of it, so hopefully something will come from it. But I just kind of figured let people know if you're on Twitch, the people that you really like, know, hey, this is something they can see if they can look into helping. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what was your name?
It's the same as my username, DJ Chateau. There you go. What?
We have any other questions?
What's your usual online pay portal? Like, what are you guys using, PayPal or?
Yeah, we just use PayPal.
Okay.
Normally, but if
Do you
there's
have
problems with
Facebook?
PayPal,
Square?
it's Square,
To
like,
receive payments.
So are you doing like Give Lively with Square or just straight Square?
Just Square. We have a few people that have issues with PayPal that, for whatever reason, they don't use PayPal. So we use Square to accept credit card.
So our charity account, we started with using Give Lively and had a 20% increase in contributions through Give Lively at live events instead of cash. And then, so it was a 20%, that was huge for us, a 20% increase. And then we just got, and I don't have enough information about it yet, 'cause we just got added to Benevity, which is corporate giving through employees who have like 50 cents taken out of their check every month. You know, and then it goes to that, and then it goes to the charity of their choice. You have to be processed through a person already requesting that charity. And then at the end of the year, when they send, after they send the check, you become approved and can then put together your profile.
can you send that information over to me or the Lab Ops channel? Lab Ops is better because, like I said, I'm all over the place.
Then and you can follow.
Where is it? Where?
Lab Ops and Management, Slack.
Yes, sir.
I got you.
Quick question about the PayPal, about the membership fee, like voluntary increase. I tried to do it on PayPal, but it won't let me do it.
Okay, so that's one of the downsides is that you set up a subscription at a certain rate. In order to increase it, what I did was I just went and created another one. So if you go to FamiLAB.org and do FamiLAB.org/donate, you can actually set an amount there and you can set it as repeating. The other option.
L.FamiLAB.org.
Yeah, I think I have it pointing.
Okay.
Both of them should work, but L.FamiLAB.org is probably /donate is probably better. The other thing is the other option is to cancel and then restart a new one. And we can either send you the link with the new one that's 75 or it depends. I mean, it's kind of silly because now I have two going through and they're on different dates, but it doesn't bother me so much. It might bother other people.
I just waited until mine was on the same day and then did that.
That's another option. And that kind of brings us to, or that kind of, we'll get into later, but that kind of explains why we can't force the $75 on the current members because we have to cancel their account. We'd have to cancel and then have them set it up over again. We can't just increase it after a warning. So,
Could also be rude.
yeah, it'd also be very rude.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, the power company does that to me all the time.
Yeah, you don't want to.
How do you feel about them?
And they are.
I don't think you want to like. It's so stupid.
My opinion on them will shock you.
Okay.
Do we have other?
Let's move on.
Before we get to the big stuff tonight, maybe we see if there's new member introductions and.
I don't think there were.
There were no applications on JotForm.
But
So
is there anyone who has not introduced yet?
Kind of.
Okay, so we have two potential new people.
So, hi everybody. There's a lot of new faces here.
Yep.
I'm an old face too. My rage quit is over. The new guys, hi, my name's Gene Jacket. I miss you guys really bad, really bad. And I don't want to take over the meeting, but I've got a fucking plan to keep the lab afloat. So I'd love to talk to the current board and ops team, okay, when this is over, but like, I can keep this alive, everybody. I'm gonna need help, but we can fucking do it. Thanks, Steve.
Hey everyone, I'm Cooper. I'm an engineer. First week was my first time here. You guys have great stuff. I was very impressed by just how expansive, how much stuff you have. I did not expect a biology area for one thing. I'm excited to start participating. I could host, thinking about hosting the 3D Printing Monday and maybe help out with publications or something like that. So yeah, I'll be talking to people, see what I can do. Yeah, great. Happy to, looking forward to joining, being active. Thank you.
thank you.
I have a request at some point, either soon or at the end of the meeting. I'd like to get a head count because that information is very useful for grants.
Yes,
Yes.
we actually, when you run an event, everyone, please have people sign in. We have links on all of the iPads
Yeah.
for an event sign-in form,
I had no idea.
So
so that we can keep track of how many people show up.
Still work.
when's a good?
At a minimum, get a head count, kind of get information. The other
Yeah.
thing is, during those events, take pictures. Take pictures, and send them to me. I'll put it on social media, I'll put it on the blog, and then it's actually out there. It's not just sitting on a Google Drive somewhere.
Yep.
Hang on.
No, go ahead.
I
Anything
was
else?
just gonna ask, when's the best time to do a head count? At the end of the meeting, after?
Yeah, we'll probably do it at the end.
Okay, great.
Probably should have did it before. But.
Just a kind of a quick side, there's been a lot of interest from a number of people wanting to run concurrent meetups, like the 3D printer meetup or something. Just because one person is running it, doesn't mean you can't also run it. For instance, like Maker Effects does they call it the 3D printer guild night, and there's like 4 or 5 people who are very interested and knowledgeable about 3D printing. And if anyone can't come, there's still people there who are running it. So it's not like this is Adam's event and he's going to be the only one who can ever run it. And you can have a competing event on Thursday night, and whoever wins is the best. It's not, they basically have it on one night, and then people's schedules change. People get held up at work, whatever. That way there's always overlap. And if there's enough people interested in one particular topic, that would be a super awesome thing to have happen.
Agreed.
Just trying to encourage, not discourage anyone who's.
Yeah. If we end up with a 3D printing meetup 4 days a week, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I'll do a second 3D printing meetup.
Sure. You don't have to be a 4 week. Pick the 2 that you like the most.
I'll bring the spaghetti.
Does it come with you without booze?
Bring the machine that you made the spaghetti on too.
So it's
diagnose
heavy.
it.
Is it a drawer?
Yeah. Went swimmingly after I turned the temperature down. Pretty bad.
Was there any other questions or comments or anything before we get into the?
I mean, I have a show and tell, I just can't pick it up because it's in pieces. But I printed a guitar,
Looks cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
but, yeah, it's in pieces, so if I pick it up, it falls apart, because it's not glued together yet.
From over here, I thought it was like a golf thing.
No, it is a guitar,
Okay.
there is pictures in 3D printing channel for those who haven't seen it, or don't wanna look over.
How much are the electronics to get that working?
It's like an $85 kit.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I wanna say it took about 1.5 kilos of filament, so.
Did not print that on your 110, huh?
No, it's too big. There is only one piece of it that would fit on the War on Zero.
What printer did you print it on, Brian?
I was printed on the bamboo because I haven't finished building.
Oh.
The printer itself is good, the company behind it is crap.
At least they
You need to make some
Someone clip that, please.
Okay, I have a show and tell.
That's remixed.
So I'm just a visitor, so I didn't introduce myself because I'm just a visitor. But I've been going to, my name's Eileen, and you'll see our booth Opportunity at Maker Fair. And we're also a charity organization, so I visit all the makerspaces I can, and I go to Nation of Makers. And so as I heard about this, potential part of this session coming up, this scary question vote that happens potentially tonight, I had to wrap my head around that. As far as what's going on with other makerspaces in the country by meeting folks at Nation of Makers and hearing all the things they're going through, which places are expanding, which places are contracting, which places have moved 2 and 3 times. And so I put together sort of a grid, if anybody likes that kind of visual thing. And then just, the challenge of having a place you call home or your third space, your second or third home, have to potentially go through transitions. So talking about the ways people cope. So I have a couple printouts. If anybody is interested, we can sort of just pass the stack. Okay. And then also talking about the fact that for my PhD work, I've been looking at makerspace planting or makerspace formation. And so one of the things that we looked into was what's called retained life estate, where you try to get people to basically donate property, like houses or farms or what have you, and then take the big old tax write-off for that. So if anybody's really interested into that neat deep stuff, I have that page, but I'll mainly get off the other two.
Is that different from the in-kind donation?
It is different from in-kind donation in the fact that they get a huge tax write-off if it's for educational or conservation purposes for 15 years.
Oh.
So if they're giving, it's a pretty intricate thing.
I was gonna share more stuff.
Can you stop rotating your phone? It's going.
Yeah, sorry. Freaking out of it.
You probably want to rotate it sideways. There we go.
There we go. So I'm sharing from my phone. Sorry, I've got one more thing to share. So I decided to start grid fitting my house. So I started with my kitchen drawer and made grid affinity bins for it. If you don't know what this is, it's pretty much an open source grid-based storage system made by Zach Friedman, I believe is his name.
It's based on a 42 millimeter grid.
Yeah, it's based on a 42 millimeter grid, and most things in life happen to fit in that grid almost perfectly. So I started with my kitchen drawer, and now I'm grid fitting my office parts drawer. I've got most of my hardware in there. I've got a couple more drawers in the kitchen I do. The problem is I've run out of filament. So I always get to like 4 rolls of filament for Christmas, and I've burnt through all of them now printing things. So, but yes, it is super awesome. If you're interested in more of it, I've also modified some of his files to suit my needs, not just making them different sizes. These actually have, it's kind of hard to see, there's like a little dip so you can actually reach in and grab silverware, even though they're, you know, 1.5 inches tall. So I've done a lot of stuff with that kind of stuff. If you're interested, let me know afterwards. It's just another cool thing to show off and tell.
I looked into it, but I'm so bad with organization. I would have it all set up at one point, and then later on it would just be everything would be all over the place.
Well, that's the neat part.
All
You
the
can-
bins would just have the wrong stuff in them.
You can start swapping out the bins because
Exactly,
they're all
that's true.
removable.
That's true.
If you decide, hey, I really need a bin of this shape instead, you hit print, and an hour later you have the new bin.
So
I
anything that actually.
don't know how to unshare, so can someone unshare me?
On it.
Stop sharing.
Kick it.
Okay, got it.
Alright, we have another question from the chat.
Real quick though, Eileen, can you share that in Slack as well? I think we're gonna share it in the chat.
Can someone,
I already did. I
can
posted
someone
it
give her
to
permission?
Elena.
Okay,
To share?
perfect. Yeah, that's right, she did.
She doesn't have permission to share in the Slack.
It's only certain rooms.
Just individual by individual, and that could take a little.
It should only be certain rooms.
Yeah, I saw this.
Yeah, one of the announcements are usually cut off.
Yeah, I'll go back over it with her. I think at the time, we figured out she's trying to post some announcements.
Okay.
Not only the,
Yeah, announcements would be important, and then I think, well, I mean, it's fitting, I guess, but, you know, general meta.
Fine.
yeah, that was fine. Anybody else can show off anything new, anything cool?
I don't think I ever introduced myself to the group.
Come on up.
Hey, my name's Dana. My background is putting planes together and automating government systems. So, like, I've got experience programming, although I haven't been keeping up with it lately. But yeah, it's
When you say putting planes together, can you be more specific?
C-130.
Okay.
Yeah, I did isochronal inspections of C-130, and a lot of other things adjacent to that.
How many bolts one plug door?
Oh my God.
Fuck ton. Too many.
Just gonna leave.
Oh, no. No.
That took me until they said, oh, that didn't catch that. That was bad. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
What kind of stuff are you looking at doing at the lab?
3D printing. I absolutely love that technology. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, oh, I want to do all of this. And then I decided, hey, you know what? That's hella expensive right now, and I can't afford it. So I went off to learn programming in C for microcontrollers on the Atmel 328P, and then found out that that's the microcontroller that's running all the 3D printing boards, and came around full circle back to 3D printing. So now I'm doing that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Dana?
Dana, are you one of those people that print like really as big of a spiral as you possibly can and how to do that? Because it sounds like you know like assembly for the.
Oh, you mean like full control G code?
Yeah.
No, I don't do that, but it does look really cool.
Okay. I think it looks cool too, but I'm not gonna.
And I do believe that was part of the inspiration behind the arc overhang algorithm. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have kind of hung out on the a while back I was hanging out on the frontier of 3D printing. Like as soon as I saw that Yoda head that was printed at like 75 microns or something like that, I was like, I wonder how much farther down you can go. And so I immediately found this guy that like was hand drilling like dome nuts to have a 0.005 0.01 aperture.
Okay.
And so I went and I printed hypothetically 0.005 millimeter layer heights. But I mean, I couldn't see any layers, but I don't know if I hit my target because I didn't have any tool to check it with. You know, it's too small. But
pretty cool.
Yeah. Ceramic hot ends are really nice too. Unfortunately, nobody uses the Ubis anymore.
I'm curious. So, isochromatic. I want to say that's for failure. That's like isochromatic. Expected for cracks. Maybe?
Isochronal
Oh,
is a time-based inspection. So like every, I think it's 480 days or something like that, regardless of whether or not the planes even took off the ground, you do this inspection.
Gotcha.
And there's 4 inspections, and it varies what things get checked on each one.
Okay.
So that way, every like 3.5 years or something like that, you're checking everything.
Right. Because you cycle
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
But you pull the plane into the hangar and you take off all of the skin.
Yeah.
And that's step 1.
Yeah.
And it takes forever and it's a pain in the ass.
Sounds very cool. Like you was working like C5 Galaxies. Those are, I mean, those are turbojet powered, I want to say, but they're also it's a larger transport. Did you like inside C5 Galaxies too?
I never touched them, but I was qualified to work on them. So before I got out of the Air Force, I had enough experience and knowledge in a variety of things that I was considered qualified to work on anything.
Awesome.
But did I get to mess with everything? No, of course not. I wasn't at those bases, but I spent a hell of a lot of time on C-130s and a whole bunch of stuff adjacent to them, like hazardous material management and inventorying the jillion tools.
Yeah.
So I wanna interrupt. Great conversation, but we need to move the meeting along.
Yep,
So thank
sounds
you,
good.
Dana. Thank you so much. Anybody else? All right, I'll go back to presenting. Or does anybody in chat want to speak up?
John's applauding.
Awesome.
Because Mac is applauding, and Lee, and you.
Pods are applauding.
Thanks for pointing it out. See, the silly me didn't know they were animated until a couple weeks ago, so I was very excited.
You may want to close the sideboard, at least in this view,
So I can call messages.
which is on that computer.
Well, that's my computer.
Okay, so this is
I can't see
what everybody wants to talk about, right? This is the main thing here. First of all, I'd like to say again, thank you for everybody that coming out, because in all honesty, we probably wouldn't even have this conversation if meetings were like this all the time. I'm not blaming anybody. I know that we all have our own things to do, but the more we have active members coming out and doing things and taking part, again, that's where the success is going to be, because it's member run, member funded. We need members to participate. So thank you again for coming out. So the current financial recap right now, Brent is at about 3,300, well, it's more like 3,300 about. Current utilities are around 1,000. I didn't get into insurance when I made this, so you might touch on that if you get a number really off the top of your head.
I do not off the top.
Okay, it's not a big deal. But that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at now. rent is the biggest thing that we're looking at, because that's gonna be the one that's the biggest factor. Utilities, as if we were to increase membership, utilities will go up, but not the amount of rent that's gonna go up. So, in our current savings, we have roughly about $2,300 or $23,000. Our current income is around $4,000. So that you look at that alone compared to what we have, we're already hitting the mark or missing the mark. We pulled a P&L for last year to see what our current loss was over the course of the entire year and averaged it out. It averaged out to negative $700 a month that we lost. And that's January through December of 2023.
7,200. Yeah, 84, 84, 84.
And that's including additional donations. It's not just dues. I said earlier, the member dues is the only thing that's paying. That's their only income. There are additional dues, but they're all done through all additional donations, but they're all done through members specifically, like the member that gives $100 a month for the laser, things like that. So
that last Amazon donation we had at the end of the beginning of last year.
true, we did have Amazon Smile. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, so it's kind of relevant at this point. Yeah, there was previously.
That was something that was helping us.
Okay, was it significant?
It was
$100 a quarter. Couple $100 a quarter.
Yeah, and then that final payout was a triple payout too, which.
In terms of the low, I mean, that's for, when you look at a business, especially a 65,000 square foot business, that's not a lot of overhead right there. But think about budget wise, we're not budgeting anything in any of the departments because, for the areas, because obviously they're member run, yeah. So, and if there was, we could, but member run or member funded, we don't. Future financials. So rent is going to increase 5% in March. That's just because every year it's going to increase over this insane format that I just could not figure out. So I talked to landlords. They said they can guess around 5%, which isn't too bad from our current rate.
I'd expect more.
What's that?
I'd expect more.
Okay. Probably not much more, 7%, something like that.
I mean, didn't they already tell us the number?
No, they didn't tell us the number because
if they go strictly by the formula, last time I calculated it, I think was March of last year or April of last year, and it came out to $700 that they can increase it by.
That's based on the unemployment rate or something like that?
Yeah, CPI and the unemployment rate and a whole bunch of stuff that I had to put into Excel. And
So Dave Woods, our former landlord, did post his calculations in Lab Ops Management, if I remember, a couple weeks ago.
yes, he did. I forget what exactly that was. I probably should have pulled that. Forgot.
Either way, it's going up a significant amount, but not a stupid amount.
Can we guilt them into lowering?
What's that?
Can we guilt them into lowering it?
No, these are, so the conversations I had with them were pretty short because these are a holding company that's really just, they're there to make money. That's it. They don't care what FamiLAB is, what they do. All they care about is they want to make money. And right now, the going rate for this space, which you'll see in a minute, is $4,000 more a month than what we're paying. So they're losing a lot of money and they're wanting us out early. So
How long is our lease for still?
our lease is up in 2025. We'll get to that shortly here. There's also pending repairs going on that we need to have done. The AC in the FamiLAB needs to get done before it starts to get hot. In fact, there was just conversation about it in Slack. We should be running the AC in order to run the lasers. What we're doing is we're causing the tube to have a shorter lifespan this way. The hotter it runs, and it could even damage the electronics at some point, I believe.
It's air cooled, and so it needs both a conditioned space and it needs the ventilation fan.
Right.
That's smoky.
So that's a huge thing there.
The ventilation fan pulls air over the heat sinks as well as the air that's in the room helps cool other parts of the
Right. Yeah, because that's the cold source. That's the cold. Yeah.
Right. And then what you haven't seen in any of the financials yet, because it actually happened this month, is the $2,000 we just paid for, well, yeah, $2,000 we just paid for the laser. 600 of it was spent earlier, so that's where the 2,600 comes in. But yeah, 2,000 this month for the laser. And then there's warehouse tools. So when I walk around out there, I see a lot of janky tools that some of them work, some of them don't, some of them just need some upkeep. We need funds in order to do that, even if it's just something like buying a belt. We need some kind of funds, especially if we're not having members do that for us. So those are just things to consider when it comes to part of our expenses. Now, the lease renewal, like you were asking earlier, lease renewals in March of 2025. It renews March 1st of 2025. If we renew it, we have to talk to the landlords and decide, because right now they're thinking we're going to leave. They know that we are not in a good financial state. All their stuff is public. So they are offering us some stuff. In order to do that, if we hit that mark, something to consider. If we hit that mark, because we had somebody ask $100 a member, will that get us to that mark? We are going to have to show the landlords that we can't just meet that mark, that we're going to be able to sustain that mark, because they want us to sign for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. Most leases are like that. Anywhere we go, it's going to be the same thing. A lot of times you have to show financials. So something to consider. It's not like we can just get a donation this year and be like, okay, we can sustain it now until the end of our lease and then figure it out as we go. We need to actually figure that out within 6 to 9 months.
Unless someone wants to give us a lump sum that'll cover our rent for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Even then, because it's a holding company and it's a corporate entity, they won't want to sign it based on just our savings that we have. If someone were to give us a lump sum, they want.
If there was a lump sum, sometimes you can prepay. Like some companies will prepay for an additional discount. They'll prepay the whole lease.
That's fair.
But again, we'd have to have the full lump sum now, and that's not an insignificant number.
So one of the changes, first of all, let me get out the point that the reason we've come to this decision and have asked everybody to vote on it is because this type of turnout hasn't happened in a very long time.
It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years. So
7 5 years, like pre-COVID.
I say
Yeah, pre-COVID.
They were 4 times.
either way,
That's what I was saying.
so it's not like we just sat on this for a long time. We've tried to get the communication out there. We tried to reach out to people, and we tried to express in every meeting that more things need to be done. Everybody should know, if you've been attending the meetings, that we've been a negative every month. So it's crunch time. We have to make a decision. So we've decided that the board has decided that we have to at least give you guys a choice. We could have, without this, the amount of members here, we could have just been like, I guess we got to wind down, and just wind it down, tell everybody, sorry, it's got to go. But we want your impact, we want your input, and we want, we want the option, just like it should have been in the very beginning, according to our bylaws. So things to consider about the move. We really don't have any funds for a build out. Build out is very expensive. From what Mike said, 60,000. This was about 60,000 to build out this 2,000 square foot. Granted, we're not going to build anything that big, but think about it. It took how many members to do that? That were
Probably had 12 that were working 3 or 4 days a week.
right. So 12 members that weren't being paid labor for that. So the $60,000, yeah, that $60,000 was just supplies. So we really don't have any budget for build out at all.
And we didn't have money then either. Our landlord just was able to amortize our build out through the lease over the next several years. And then he ended up, on purpose and by plan, I believe, forgave about half of it for tax purposes.
And keep in mind that member, or that owner was a member. Yeah. So that's why he did it. Finding somebody like that, again, unless any of you own some big property.
Or even small property.
Right, at this point.
Or even any property.
You got a closet. So with that said, finding space has been very hard, and I kind of goofed I did not do the budget, and a lot of people have pointed this out. We didn't really do a budget beforehand. We're just trying to hurry up and move, or hurry up and get ideas at least. So I was looking at spaces for 2,500 square feet because I thought maybe we could reach that. After discussion with the board, we found that through potential member loss and everything else, build out costs and things like that, we wouldn't be able to afford a 2,500 square foot space, which is already small. 2,000 square foot of office space and 6,000 square foot of warehouse space is what, or I'm sorry, 4,000 square foot of warehouse space is what we have now. Granted, the warehouse space isn't utilized very well, and there are some big machines in there that are either non-functional or we just don't use that we can get rid of. It's still a lot of space, a lot of less space that we'll have if we were to move to something smaller. I'll take questions in a little bit.
Yeah, could I have a few minutes at this juncture to put another option on the table?
Let's go through the options we
Let's
already
go through the
have.
options first.
Absolutely.
So, and I'll explain why the options are what they are. So, yeah.
Space wise, obviously, like this is way too big for continuing on. Nick and I have about 1,600 square feet to start to like visualize what the change would be, and even 1,600 square feet does feel like a lot. And we've got like big machines, so with smaller stuff like the laser and 3D printers, even like the Bridgeport or Amazon stuff, I think it would still be a pretty good amount of space if we even had 2,000.
It'll take some creativity, but it can be done.
Right. Either way, I think it can work. We can make it happen. And not that we want to go as small as extremely small as possible, but the more money we save, then we can upgrade later. When times come to renew that lease, maybe we'll just, move somewhere else bigger, or maybe the space we're in has the place next door opened up. I think that happened to Maker FX. The place next door opened up, they busted a hole in the wall and rented that space too. So there's a possibility of growth if there is funds.
And so just for past reference, Kyle has brought this up. So FamiLAB started in an 800 square foot space. FamiLAB then moved to a 400 square foot space, and then we rented a 100 square foot space adjacent to the laser. And at that time, we had 35 or 40 paying members before we moved to the 4,000 square foot space down the road here, where we had about 1,000 indoor and about 3,000 warehouse.
Same building.
Same building, it's just down the road, down the road, down the complex.
Right. So the point I was getting at though with the build out funds there, I almost got off track, is that since there are no build out funds, we're gonna get what's there. So for instance, that 2,500 square foot space we looked at, it has 150 square foot of office space, and the rest is warehouse space. So
that's the size of the FabLab.
Yeah, that's the size of the FabLab, which cool, the FabLab's good, it's there, the lasers, major thing, 3D printers are a major thing, but what are we gonna do if we wanna hold classes and there's no lobby to hang out, there's no laptop bar area to hang out, things like that. So I mean, that's just something to consider, and we're gonna consider it when we look for the space, but in most cases, warehouses aren't built out like this, and they're usually not built out in a split 50-50. So we can alter what we're looking for and maybe look for office space. Then we get into a whole other problem of if that office space will accommodate the laser that needs to be vented externally, it's kind of loud. So I mean, we're extremely limited on the space that we can move into, not just on size, but the type of space because of the low build out funds. It also means that with extremely low funds, and we want to save as much money as we can, we need members to help us with this. I cannot express this enough. If we vote to move and people don't show up to move, then we're gonna have to just ask that people come and buy the stuff and leave when we leave and not actually move, because we cannot afford the cost that it's gonna cost for us to move all of this stuff and labor. We need people to help move. I know there's a lot of people, myself included, I have an extremely bad back from previous moves and all kinds of crazy stuff I did when I was younger. I can't move very much, but I will be here to help. If you can't do much, that's fine. Still show up. If you can help give funds or maybe friends or family, if you can get them in, I'll do something. I'm sure there will be food and things like that for us to
For
share.
anyone who shows up to help move, there will be food every single time.
There you go. Okay.
I can't hear Brian.
Oh, he was just saying that there's he guarantees that there will be food. Was it food and drink or just food?
Food.
There will be food and drink every
Food
time.
and drink.
Every time you show up to move. Every time we schedule a time to move, we'll make sure there's food and drink there. We're gonna not take that out of the funds that's gonna be members. They're just gonna donate this.
Because I can't lift much machine.
Right. So downsize wise, we kind of quick rundown of the numbers. We're looking at 1,000 to maybe 1,500 square feet. And you know, if you think about a split, if we do a 90-10 split, something like that, 2,500 square feet, and we only do, you know, 500 square feet or even less of office space, 150 square feet of office space, whatever is there, you know, that's a significant downsize. So just understand what you're voting for is to downsize a significant amount. We have had some people offer suggestions of, you know, putting stuff in storage until we have the room, things like that. That can all be considered during, you know, during the process.
And
yeah,
from what I see here, though, it's not necessarily if we move or not, it's when we move, right? 'Cause we'll definitely have to move by 2025 for the $7,500.
So I'm one of those people that cannot say that something's impossible.
Yeah.
I always think that something's possible. So it's hard for me to say that. Other people will tell you guaranteed 100%. There's absolutely no way. We land a government grant tomorrow.
Yeah.
We could possibly do it.
Totally. So what's the deadline for re-signing our lease right now?
For re-signing our lease, I'm not sure. I have to talk to the landlord about that. But
2025. Yeah.
what's that?
It's probably around December. It's usually
Yeah.
about 3 months.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was judging, like, so 3 to 6 months before probably.
If we decided we wanted to stay and we were able to come up with enough money by then, that's a possibility. But that's a lot of money to come up with. A lot of people are gonna have to chip in for it. A lot of people are gonna have to go put the effort forth in finding grants or finding other sources of, you know, donations.
So
remotely be possible.
I was going to get into that, and that hasn't been an option presented, but there's enough members here right now. I will accept a vote of however way you want to go if everybody decides on it. And talk to the other board members, see if they really care. But if you guys really decide on it and you guys are willing to do it, I'm all for it. Staying, the whole thing about staying is that if we decide that we are going to do that and we're going to stay, we will miss out on any added stuff. Okay, so if we decide we're going to stay and then we don't make it, there will be no moving. There will be closing the lab, 100% guaranteed. That one I can tell you will be impossible. Again, not impossible.
Very unlikely.
You can take $500 and go.
Out of your shoes on time, you're gonna trip and fall and smack your head.
It sounds like when I heard tonight that if we decide to stay, that doesn't just mean we need enough money to sign the new lease. We need to change our system. We need to change the FamiLAB, the organization, such that we now can show that we will have enough income over the next 3 to 5 years once we sign that new lease to keep it going. So it's not just really a commitment until signing a new lease. It's a commitment for until signing a new lease, then 3 to 5 years more during this period to show the landlords that we're changing. We will now have enough income moving forward.
And it's not just about money. They have to decide if they want us.
Okay.
They have the option to not renew our lease. They can say, you know what, we don't like you guys as a tenant.
Okay.
I know you have millions of dollars in the bank, but we don't like you.
Okay.
So, and that's something we'll have to discuss with them because, as I said before, they're missing out on $4,000 a month for the next 13 months. They're missing out on a potential $4,000 a month with us staying here if they were to rent to somebody else. Hang on 1 second. There was something else I wanted to say is I forgot. What was your question?
So because of that, the fact that they're missing out on $4,000 a month already, back in the old days, if you signed a 5-year lease and then suddenly 2 years in, you couldn't do it, you know, if they could find another tenant, so everything's fine, they'll let you out of it. The times have changed since COVID, and especially anonymous conglomerate holding companies can decide that they choose not to take someone in and then take you to court for fulfilling the remainder of that lease to punish you for needing to move. They do that now.
I will say though that
So-
I've had conversations, granted I don't have anything in writing yet, but I do have conversations. Technically it's an email. I don't know how viable that is in court, but there is agreements with them right now that they will not do that, and that we're actually we'll get early.
So what if you hang out there and try for the next 5 years and you say, we have the money in the bank?
We don't have the money.
You don't know
It doesn't
who,
matter.
you don't know
It's
who
just-
they're gonna sell
yeah.
to, who made
Yeah,
them
it's-
Well,
not
it's all
have to
it's
buy
about.
that.
They'll be bankrupt the organization.
So
Yeah,
you guys will be losing out on about 50 grand over the next year. Do you think there's any negotiation for an early move out bonus?
We'll get to that.
That's
We're gonna-
what we're gonna get right
yeah.
into now.
It's on the page.
She's all
But
over
she
that.
can't see it.
No, I see it.
I'm just waiting for you to get to it.
6,000 versus 50.
Right,
is there
right, yeah.
room to
yeah.
negotiate that up?
Now I remember what I was gonna say. Going back to what he was saying is that moving, the other thing is it's not a solution to our problem. It is a Band-Aid, just like everything else. When it comes to the space, it's a Band-Aid. What we need is we need people on outreach. We need people to be hosting events and hosting classes, and we need that extra income coming in. Even if we move to a 1,000 square foot space, I guarantee you it's not gonna last if we don't do that stuff. People are gonna stop coming in. They're not gonna get enough money in membership alone. So just,
It's a lifeboat.
right.
Yeah, it's a
right.
lifeboat.
Now, if you
FamiLAB.
do host a class, you are welcome to charge money to people to come and take your class.
I actually
Can
encourage
you
that.
charge a different rate for members and non-members?
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
Yes.
And you can
No,
even
one
take
of those
a
ways.
cut of the revenue from running the class, where part of it goes to the lab and part of it goes to you for running it.
Just so for some backstory, since there's a few of us who've been here since, pretty much the beginning. When we had only the 400 square foot space, when we would hold classes, teach Arduino or soldering or whatever, we would usually cooperate with an outside co-working space and go and hold a class or an event there. Like, for instance, the library has a makerspace area downtown, and we would collaborate with them and say, hey, this is a class hosted by FamiLAB. It's $25, and they had a very similar sharing model. Come use the library space, teach a class, do whatever. I know several of us were there, back in those days, and we were doing that, and that's actually how we went from being able to afford 400 square feet to 4,000 square feet, was by doing outreach beyond our four walls.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with Creality, and they're more than willing to put it, partnership, at least with 3D printing for bronze casting. But they,
And I say this because, just say, if we move down to 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 square feet, you say, well, now I can't hold my 3D printing class. That's not true. The venue changes, and it's now hosted by us at a third party site.
We collaborate, we still use our space, we collaborate with local large space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even one of our sister spaces, Maker FX, the Maker FX location, there's an option there. There is one out west, I can't remember what it's called.
I think you're.
Real quick, when you guys are talking, try and speak up a little bit more, because I just went out there, I can't hear anything up there.
Okay. I think you're trying to support rather than saying that moving, it sounds like it's really, 4, 5, 6 year commitment of more of the organization of us getting more money per month, therefore the organization changing, therefore more outreach, therefore more fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot attached to moving that I know I'm new, but that I just encourage everyone to keep in mind when we get to the voting.
Right.
and I want to add another point about move. Right now, this is all predicated on the move in the vicinity where we are right now.
Yes.
For example, when you start talking about Maker FX, they're on the other end of town, and I think that's been an issue for a lot of people, because if they're willing to go anywhere in the city just built what is it, 500,000 or 1 million square feet of warehouse space on the south end that they're now looking to fill. And that would be something that could be approached if we're willing to go that far. My understanding is, at least when we're looking at the move, we're looking to try to stay in this vicinity.
Yeah, and
That's
if we
our
go,
current members.
if we go south of downtown, south of Winter Park even, we're basically then directly competing with Maker Effects.
Right, and it defeats the entire purpose of being on this end of town, of an option for people on this end of town, not have to drive clean across town.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of members, and I've even talked to a lot of people during Maker Faire about this. I asked them about where they are in relation to us, like asking where you're located and things. And I asked about Maker Effects that they've been to, and a lot of people said that is just too far away.
And
so, I mean,
and remember, there's a number of members, myself included, who I work less than 5 minutes from Maker Effects, but I drive up here, and there's a reason, and I think Kyle works down there, Lily, used to work in the area.
I live down there.
You live down there.
I also don't matter. I'm leaving in 2 months. See you.
But I'm just using it as a past example. So that being said, there's a reason why this, kind of works up in Seminole County, and there's certain benefits being in Seminole versus Orange. And I don't think moving out of the county is a good idea if we move, but like within the borders, it's probably, I would say it's open for discussion.
I want to say like Seminole County has a higher average income than Orange, so therefore, if that's true, I imagine rents are lower, cost of living is generally lower in this county.
But there's less people.
real quick, I did spread my search out too when we're looking to look at rates, and the rates seem to be pretty much the same, even if we go, like I looked at a couple in Sanford, just basically for fun. I live in Sanford, it would make it so much easier. But no, I did look over there, and the rates are pretty much the same over there. So
we just signed a lease at our company for our commercial space. It's significantly larger, so we got a lower rate, but it was still $12 a square foot. But we're talking about renting almost 30,000 square feet. So
Let's try and focus on getting through the options that
Yeah,
we've
sorry.
already
So
done.
yeah, okay, so I talked to the landlord, and they asked if we could be out by the end of March of this year, or by March 1st of this year. I said there's no way, among other parts of the conversation. They offered to keep the deposit, or they offered for us to keep the deposit if we leave. After a little bit of back and forth, not a whole lot of back and forth, they offered $6,000 on top of the $2,500, but we had to have everything out. And I said, well, that quick, we're most likely going to have to get a rigger to get the house and the comet out. That alone is going to eat up all of that $6,000. So I did make right now, the going idea or the going offer is we have to make an attempt to get the Haas and the Comet out, and and tell them how many machines. It says there are a few machines, so we have to make sure that we try and get the most out, especially the stuff that rigger needs. Everything else needs to be out and cleaned up basically, and they'll give us that $6,000 still and the $2,500 deposit.
And
so
we got an extra month.
8,500, and yes, and that's at the end of April, instead of the end of, or the beginning of March. So kind of extra 2 months. Give me a minute, Dana, because we're kind of run out of time. So they wanted an answer before the holiday. This is how quick they want us out, right? That's how much motivation, going on what Katie said, that's how much motivation they want from us. They want it quick. I have a feeling they have somebody lined up that might want this space, and they're ready to get rid of it, or at the very least, they know they can get somebody else to take the space. So there probably is room for negotiation there. However, I did tell them that we'll have an answer after this vote. So if we are going to negotiate, I need to know by the end of today if we're going to negotiate that any further. And if I can get any help doing that, because I am the worst possible salesperson in the history of the planet,
I can help.
I would be much appreciated. Katie, raise your hand too. Awesome. So yeah, we'll get together on that. If and when that is the temps. So proposal number 2 is pretty straightforward. It's to wind down. To just close down the shop. This doesn't mean that FamiLAB will no longer be, and it's all sad and we all have a funeral for it. It could be different things. Leftover funds can possibly and some tools can possibly be donated to places. We could just go to Maker FX, say, look, we wind down, here's what's in our savings, here's the cool tools that we have left, do something awesome. That would be something. We could also, in that time that we are winding down, we could have somebody pop up and say, hey, I have an idea. Maybe we start a new space. Maybe we stay in the space or something like that. So there are those options during the wind down.
Or the
But
winner wins the lottery and.
yeah, right. But the reason we came to what I was saying before is the reason we came to these is we don't have this member interaction. So what we have to do is we have to make a decision soon. The way the board was looking at it, we have to make a decision soon. And there wasn't enough feedback or time, basically. There wasn't enough time to sit on this and try and take any longer to present all of this to you and say, give us options and whatnot. We don't have time. From here on out, we're losing money every single day. So that's why these options came up. That's why there's only these two options at the moment. It's still going to require a lot of membership. It's going to still require a lot of people to help. And I can tell you right now, as soon as we say we're winding down, we're probably going to lose a lot of members. So the people that are active and are willing to help, we're going to need a lot of help to get that stuff out on time. Worst case scenario, if we don't get everything out on time, but we still are contractually have to get out because we agreed to it, we lose the $8,500 and the landlord has to deal with the stuff.
If we decide to wind down, but takes longer to do so, how much, can we forfeit the bonus from the landlord and break our lease, like say in June?
Mike, can you speak up some?
Sorry, if we decide to wind down and break our lease kind of midterm, like in June, instead of that, obviously we might forfeit, the $8,500 or whatever from the landlord, but is it still an option so that, because like you said, if we decide to wind down and the membership starts to dwindle, it will take us necessarily longer to do that with, what is likely less than 10 people to get everything out.
You could also try and negotiate for time instead of money on that. You could say, hey, could you do this deal, but we really need one more month. Could you do that for
right.
the
My guess
following month?
would be, since they were asking for the beginning of March and are now giving till the end of April, they've got someone lined up who wants the space. So
Right.
money that might help towards movers in that last bid, maybe more realistic than more time.
Right. But so to answer your question, that's all in the negotiation. However, whatever we agree to is in stone. So if we say we'll be out by the end of April or whenever, and we're not there, we're out. They just have to deal with our mess. So, and as
That's not a bad move.
I didn't say it, but so yeah. So I mean, that is there.
Our neighbors did that.
So functionally, between these two options, like I understand there's a lot of gray area for each of them. But what I'm hearing is that it fundamentally is coming down to if I want to vote for option number one for emotional, practical, or whatever reason, I need to be making a commitment to a certain number of hours or dollars of help. And for the people that have actually been showing up to the space for 3 years or 4 years since I've been a member, that all have been contributing as my measly couple of bucks a month. Sure, that's irresponsible in a lot of ways. I did hear the message earlier that not showing up is why this meeting's happening in a lot of ways. I get that. How many hours do I need to be blocking off in my mind to vote for number one and not be hurting somebody else in the process of doing that?
3 to 4 weekends.
How many hours per day on the
So
weekend?
hold on, going on the premise of if we don't make it, we just lose the money. Well, were you talking about moving or are you talking about winding down or both?
Oh, so number two, there's no, that's a free option. Like I can vote number two for free. In order to be a responsible person
technically, we
in the
still need
community.
money.
Well, what I'm saying is like,
It's gonna depend on how many people actually volunteer.
Yeah, it really depends on how many.
but
There's no
you
easy answer.
can't, but that's the whole bystander paradox. right? Like you can't assume somebody else. So if I'm gonna vote number one, how many hours do, on average, for each person on average to vote number one, how many hours do they need to be accounting for in their head by the end of April?
As much as you can.
You really can't put a number on it.
As much as you can.
But if we do as much as we can, then you're gonna get a bunch of people voting that don't have the time to do it.
Okay, assume we need a couple dozen people for 3 to 4 weekends, solid full day weekends.
It's probably at minimum a 4-hour commitment per week at very minimum, for either option. Because, and that's assuming we have at least a dozen people.
Your vote shouldn't really depend, my point is your vote shouldn't depend on how much work you have to put into it.
Because this option essentially means that we rent a couple dumpsters and just start pushing stuff off the dock.
Exactly.
Like that's what that is. The other one is, instead of pushing it off the dock, we push it to a moving truck and then push it back into another space. But like, that's the difference. It's really, we're going to save the same amount of tools. We just won't have them anymore if we do this.
The other thing is we can't really hold people accountable, so we didn't come up with a number because we can't hold you accountable. We're not gonna sit there and track
I'm
it.
asking for guidance, right?
For
Like,
guidance.
I'm not asking for accountability.
No
I'm
matter
asking
what
for
we
guidance,
do,
sure.
it's not the end of FamiLAB.
Right.
So,
Nothing's gonna.
are we ready to talk about an option 3, maybe?
Yes, please.
Yes,
All right.
option 3
Thank
sounds good.
Hang on, guys, hang on.
Okay. So,
Hang on, guys, hold on. We're not. So why is staying not an option? He will go over that if he wants to. But the membership dues, even at $75 a month, we can't force it, what I was talking about before, it's just not enough. Email went out, we went through all this. The only other thing I want to touch on is, in the next slide. Nope.
And just to answer Dana's question earlier, if it got to $100 per month per member for 100 members that we have now, and everybody was paying full rate, it would be just enough to actually stay here.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't actually be enough to stay here and put money in the bank. It would be barely enough to actually.
Which
stay
would
here.
not go over with the.
But not internet or dumpster or electricity.
Okay, and it would not go over with the landlord either, so it's not even an option. So one thing, the grants thing, already talked about that, but one thing I will say, something we haven't mentioned is that we are reaching out to Seminole County, as of last week to see if we can get some help. And it does look a little bit promising. The reason I haven't made it public is because we need to vote on this today. So even if this doesn't happen and we do have something that pops up and allows us to stay, we can't go on that. We have no solid 100% that says that's going to happen. Seminole County is looking into the makerspace aspect, and the lady I talked to is in complete control of it. And she was extremely ecstatic that I called her, but we haven't hashed out details because I emailed her on Thursday. She called me back. We did phone tag, and then Monday was a holiday. They were closed. So it's possible that we could get additional funding through government sources and whatnot, but it's not guaranteed. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that is still in the works and still a possibility of getting funding, even though we're still have to vote today on whether or not we're going to do one of these two things. The reason we say we have to vote on this is the only thing the board can do is go based on what's happened, the trend of what's happened. If 100% of you promise me today that you will be here every day for the next 4 months trying to get members in, I can't go on that. I've had way too many people tell me that they were going to show up to hangouts, launch their own meetups, their own stuff. I can only go based on trends, right? And the trends right now is over the past 3 to 4 years, we don't have that member interaction. So we have to vote on this today, regardless. It might not even pan out. She might call me back tomorrow and say, I got you covered till the end of the year, and we'll discuss what happens after that. It's a possibility. Like I said, I don't think anything's impossible, just more improbable.
Can we vote on a condition that if that funding comes next week, say, okay, we've got plan 2, but if that funding miraculously just falls through the sky, you can execute, that other step?
Because we have to get our landlord.
The landlord needs to know. The landlord needs to know. The only way we can do that is if we draw that out by going back to the landlord and try and do more negotiation, and then kind of backstab and say, oh, wait, we got fundings. Or we decide that we're going to skip either one, and we're going to drag this out until there's no more funds. Biggest problem with that is we can't even gauge when we're going to run out of money, because I can tell you right now, myself included, it's hard for me to continue to give to an organization that I know is just going to fold in a year. You know, so it's going to be hard for me to say, I'm going to continue to give my $75 a month for this space when I know at the end of March or whatever, at the end of February of 2025, it's no longer going to have its doors open. So keep in mind that if we go that route and we decide not to vote on either one of these, and we decide to continue and risk, that will be the end of FamiLAB if it fails. Because we will just run out of money if we don't get the funding.
Can I just add something from the national perspective of government grants and assistance? With this particular location, the likelihood of grant assistance for this location is even harder because of ADA accessibility, lighting issues, safety issues, nothing's locked up, age requirements that the hoops that the government has to expect the space to jump through with standards.
Yes.
So looking for a new space in the move, and those are the things that might want to consider if you want to go for government grants in the future. Some things to have on the top of your mind are safety, accessibility.
And the wording, real quick, the wording in her voicemail, I haven't talked to her directly, but the wording in her voicemail was sounded, I don't remember the exact wording, but it sounded to me that the possibility of staying open till the end of the year is, but then moving might be something that they are going to offer, as in they want to build a maker space and they would like us to kind of take part in that. And while that kind of sounds cool, it's also a public library at that point. It's not going to be member owned anymore. It's they are thinking of building something.
If we move, this is still an option we can pursue to try to get funds, right?
I will pursue this until I get an answer.
All right, so.
Yeah, and I'm working on that non-government side.
Yeah, we still are actively looking for funding. You can see that I still have workshops. I still have 3D printing every week, the fiber arts every week. We're still doing stuff. In my mind, I'm working right now, even if we say we're going to close. Granted, I did say it would be hard for me to give, but to be honest with you, if we decide to try and run that out, I will run it out, because I want FamiLAB to succeed, and I'd like the place to where I'm paying to be here each month anyway. So I will continue that. I will continue to do the workshops that I do. I'm going to definitely slow down, but hopefully I can slow down anyway because I would get some more help. So anyway, my point is that I don't know about all you, but I'm going to operate as if we're not ever going to close. Katie?
No idea if it's an option or not with them, but maybe instead of them essentially like taking over FamiLAB in a long term, seeing if they're open to putting the money into FamiLAB and working out a deal with Seminole County residents to get a cheaper or free membership.
Yeah.
That way it's still FamiLAB at its base, but they also sort of get what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be all kinds of discussion with that if and when that comes up. I'm sure there's a ton of options. I'm sure they'll have a ton of ideas. I actually have a crazy idea that I would run past them too, but that's more of a Sanford thing just because of the available space. So
we're gonna move into the Majesty building.
Which one's that one?
The I4 eyesore.
No. No.
Justice!
There's space in the parking garage.
No electricity, no air conditioning, a half-finished building, and no facility. I got my whiteboard again.
Yeah, Chris.
Yes, sir.
You wanna turn it off, so you're not
Yeah,
lighting?
please. Oh.
You wanna turn this off, right?
There's a remote.
Yeah.
You go,
There we go.
well,
It's
yeah.
off.
Okay,
Adjust the
so,
camera so it's there.
so I think best in pictures, and so I'm gonna be drawing a lot. And so my proposed answer is actually to franchise, to split things into two labs. One stays here, one in South Bend, where I moved to, and I'll fucking tell you why. I apologize in advance for the profuse amount of excited profanity that I'm probably going to be skilling in this. So right now, we are a 501c3, and as far as I'm aware, if we have another lab location, that umbrella falls under all of it, right? And we need something to do so everybody can get taken care of in their way. But right now, I've been lurking in the labs ops and management channel, guys, so I'm not totally in the dark here. There's basically two ideas. One of them is a smaller space, right, that takes the 3D printers and the things like that, and the meeting areas, right? So you can maintain the social network that you've got here now. That's much cheaper, right? So smaller for now, can stay. And you can shop around for the commercial real estate in this horrible predatory market that you've got here. Things are completely different in South Bend. The entire city is essentially an incubator space, like in a way that I did not believe when I moved back home after 10 years. So the real trick is going to be getting the heavy working equipment to South Bend to nucleate a new lab, because here people want us desperately, right? It's not that we want money. Okay, so there are literally incubator spaces with relative to here, dirt cheap industrial space with a 3-phase wiring that you need. You too, Nick, if you need to move. If shit gets too expensive at your shop, there's cheap real estate for you to set up.
That's the part where I moved to Germany and go build models at the big model train.
So here's what, so getting this move and the buy-in from people, you know, so like the real labbies, because I know there's members who appreciate the space, and then there's people that wish that they never had to fucking go home. Okay, so I'm mostly talking to you guys because it's going to require so much work. So the first thing that we need to work out is the funding, right?
Hey, where's South Bend?
Right.
Yeah,
So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Texas.
Oregon.
There is a South Bend, Oregon.
Washington.
So we need to go here and we need the funds. So here is where Katie and the other people are really going to lean to get money out of them to finance a heavy equipment, hopefully including your electron microscopes, Dave Casey. Finally. You sure? So there'd be a big sort that would need to happen, you know, so equipment that wouldn't, you know, is going to be too much to get in working order, scrap it, keep the money.
You're gonna have to speak up a lot because people are not hearing you on the chat.
Oh, okay. So, right. So I'll explain here that the funding here is going to take care of itself pretty easily, I think, and I'll have 3 months to work on it. So really, it's the funding to keep things alive, and I didn't know that there was still 24 grand in the bank. Awesome.
And they also really do want to know where, the location.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's the priority right now. Where?
Yes.
Okay. So a wonderful and very tolerant place. I'm sorry that it is in fact in Indiana, but it is this bright blue postage stamp where there is the University of Notre Dame and a lot of other universities that I've got lots of contacts who would love to come and give high quality lectures and classes. Right? So first of all, the class structure is going to change here. Right? So not in this location, not from the members. We'll bring in high quality lecturers, pay them, and that means that everybody in the door, it's money in pocket for the lab once we're over that threshold. And of course, members will be supported to run classes as well, like with the support and development program. So we really want to do what FamiLAB, according to me, is grow people. Right? So this is a wonderful town now, okay, with named for the South Bend and the St. Joseph River. It's where when there used to be big four auto manufacturers, it's where Studebaker used to be. So there's industrial base surrounding it for people who like those sort of jobs, because I'd love to have, you know, some of you that don't fit so well in Florida move. And then if this whole fails, I've still got a fantastic board game collection. But
So wait, is this not even in Florida?
It's not in Florida.
It's not.
Indiana.
I don't know how that.
So we're talking about keeping the lab here and spawning and spinning off a new one.
Oh, so he's saying two
So
separate
effectively, we are sending instead of dumping the heavy equipment,
Yeah, trying
we
to
are,
moving the working heavy equipment to
we're
the
we're effectively selling it to FamiLAB North,
Sure.
is what you're saying.
Right. And there are incubator spaces where the equipment can land.
So my question on
Yeah.
that is, how quickly can you get one of these incubators up to fund sending sending that equipment or picking up that equipment?
So that's the thing.
Because we have to decide that
Right,
tonight.
so I don't know how shipping works. I work with them, I mean, like.
Okay, what I can tell you is it'll probably be, Nick, what would you say? $75,000
Just to move things?
to move things to Indiana.
No, not that much, like, more like 20 grand.
Okay.
But at that point, there's truly in that area, there is a vast resource of crappy equipment, roughly equivalent to ours.
Oh, that might be more appropriate.
Way cheaper.
Fantastic.
It's cheaper to buy things in Russellville than it is here.
Okay, awesome.
By far.
So,
Fantastic.
So sell it locally instead of ship it.
so pretty much what you want to do is open a affiliated FamiLAB North.
Right. And like, here's the resources that are available. I just gotta like sketch them out.
There's a lot of them, but it's far for us.
Okay,
not
so-
using this list.
So I want to pause for a second. If we have everybody up here giving out every new idea, we will be here till the end of time, and that was kind of our point. I love your idea. I think it's a good idea, but that needs to be presented after this vote. The vote still needs to happen. We can go over, again, I'm gonna operate as if we're not moving, we're not closing down. I think everybody else should do the same, except for the sense that we do still need to move the stuff. But if it comes to new ideas, run them, do whatever you need to do. Remember, this is member run. So if you have an idea and you want to get it started, reach out to other members, especially if it involves something that.
The last relevant bit, the city is stupid with money. They just gave $5 million to a developer to put in,
So if you want to spin up FamiLAB North in this amazing South Bend, Indiana that I have
show
not been to,
you the money.
yes.
Pretty much it.
So you do that, we'll happily put you under our name as FamiLAB North,
And-
let you share the 501c3.
Well, the other thing is that the actual business name for this space is Orlando Hacker Spaces plural incorporated.
Yes.
And just because we have FamiLAB under that DBA does not mean that we cannot have yet another DBA in another state.
Right.
You know, be registered in another state.
You could be an amazing campsite or whatever.
So yes, if you want to get that up and running, and we can help you out with the name.
I
that
will
is
show you the
amazing.
money.
Yes, that is amazing. It doesn't help us tonight,
Quick
but
question.
it would give us breathing room in the future.
Could this fit within vote number one? Like,
Yes.
could, yeah, in your
Yes.
opinion?
I think so.
All right.
Well,
All right, well, I'm just, I want to.
Definitely not gonna fit number two.
As we're going for long shots, I was gonna suggest two things.
Hang on, guys, hang on.
As we're going for long shots, I was gonna suggest two things. So while you're speaking of Seminole County and Orange County, one of the options are they do have a lot of real estate they own that's non-used, non-functional, or in need of space. Rather than getting the city to give you money, which might be a little harder to deal with, it might be easier to get them to part with, or at least to offer up a space, which I've seen in many other cities that were looking at the same situation. In Mississippi, I had a friend that got his city to basically fund an entire building and give them incredible deals on rent. In the long run, I think the future for FamiLAB, if it wants to be sustainable, is to own its own space, not to actually be leasing, because you're subject to renegotiations of rent periodically, other things. And yes, owning creates its own problems. You now have the headaches of the roof and all that other stuff.
Right.
But if you consider we're spending money on rent, which are getting escalated, we're actually putting that money aside anyway. It's a matter of putting together funds to do that.
But again, we're going down the rabbit hole of extra options. Now, again, those options can still be there. We can still operate as if those options. I said I was gonna operate as if those options, or as if we're not closing. The outreach is still going to be a meeting. Show up to the outreach and sign up for something. Start doing something. That's what we need to do. And I really don't mean to sound mean. Nobody's doing that, or at least if they are, I don't know about it. I didn't know that Mark was actually reaching out lately, for instance. But the outreach meeting, last time, Kristen was the only one that showed up, and she showed up through Zoom. I drove all the way out here for nothing. So, and before that, we had a few people show up, but nobody really signed up for specific stuff other than Kristen. Go ahead.
I'm the one who floated the idea about the school campus in Altamont. It's just sitting there empty. I have a few contacts within the school board that I could reach out to and see if they might be willing to work with us on it, because the, property is just sitting there empty. It's been sitting there empty for 10 years.
That's the same thing I was talking about in Sanford. Yeah, it's just, again, there's options, outreach.
Yeah, that would fall under option one in the vote, where we plan on getting out of here as soon as possible and going somewhere else.
And that would probably also relate with what Adam has done with reaching out to the county, because they might say, hey, we've got this school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, I know
So
it's
that's part
under
of
the
this discussion.
school board, but not the
It's still under the county.
government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you remind me and maybe anyone else who missed it, when are the outreach meetings, what time? Cause I can put it in my calendar.
It's, so I get that question a lot of what time, what meeting is what. I have been diligent about putting them on the Google Calendar. So not to sound like a dick, but I'm repeating myself the same thing over and over again. So no offense, but yes, it's
I'll say it
Thursday.
for you, it's Thursday at 8.
It's Thursday at 8 p.m.
Or is it
So,
Every other Thursday.
gotcha. So
Yeah, this
add,
coming Thursday.
you can add the Google Calendar to your own calendar. Just understand that I have been diligent about putting everything on there that I can possibly put on there when people tell me. So it's up there. I will say that based off of this meeting and off of the ideas, I'm willing to open that up to every week. I'm even willing, hey guys, I'm really willing to open it up to multiple days a week, if that's what it takes to get us to stay in the space or improve the space or whatever. I'm willing to do that. But again, if I show up and nobody's here, just like the move, if me and Lily show up to move and nobody else is here, I only say Lily because she's always here. But like, yeah, if 2 or 3 of us show up, we can't do that ourselves. So if you guys vote to move and nobody shows up, it's not going to happen. Hang on, Mark.
So if tonight we choose option one, with the caveat that if we don't come up with a grant miracle or a property miracle, we switch over to plan two. You know, basically, just delaying this decision a month. But with the intention of moving.
If we go with option one, we will be making every intent to find a reasonable space. And if we can't, then number 2 ends up happening anyway.
That's my point.
To an extent,
So I
yeah.
don't see the downside to one or to two, other than you just don't have to think about it anymore, which I'm not engaged enough. It's not.
Yeah, it comes down to, and I'll be the one to say, I brought this up. I was invited to the board meeting. I'm not currently on the board. I was on the board for 7 years.
Yeah, so it's all Mike's fault.
What?
Nothing. So it's all your fault. Gotcha.
It is all right.
Because you had experience with the last.
Right, that's exactly what I was gonna say. And I was asked to come on, and you know, what Adam's been frustrated with and what kind of a lot of us who are regulars have been frustrated with is, again, it's just the lack of engagement. It's, and that's why I proposed, I'm like, when we had our Christmas party, you know, even the last 2 years, and yes, I know, you know, COVID and people's travels and work has been a thing. We had 8, 10 people show up, and then maybe 5 other people show up from outside the lab to come and play Smash. It was great. We had a phenomenal time. In like 2018, when we had a Christmas party, we had like 60 people show up, and we had a 25-foot tall Christmas tree, and we had a gift exchange that took 4 hours for a white elephant gift exchange. We had engagement, and we had fewer members than we have right now. So that's where it became, to me, I'm like, is it worth it? Do people actually even care about the space anymore? The space that, you know, I've been a member of since, you know, 2010 or 2009 actually. And every year as we get bigger, it always feels to me, and this is my personal opinion, that the bigger we get, the more the not my problem, you know, comes into play. As we gain more members, like, well, somebody else can vacuum the floor. Well, somebody else will pay the rent. Well, somebody else will do this. And as we get bigger, it's like, well, somebody else can take care of that. But the problem is, no one does it. And we can't even get a full members, we can't even get enough members to serve on the board. why would we even have enough members to want to try to move to keep the space alive? There's what, 4 board members right now out of 7?
I think we're at
Five?
5 now.
5? But
The last time we were at a full strength board
Yeah.
was
2020.
No, it was before
No,
that.
that's right, yeah.
It
I think
was
right before COVID.
It was 2019 or 2018,
But,
somewhere in that
but
area.
that's where I suggested the option to close.
It's 2020 when we had a full board last.
Oh, hi, David, thank you. But that's why I kind of propose that as an option, because the lack of engagement makes it seem like there's a lot of people doing a lot of work for very few people to even use it as a third space or use it as a space at all. And that's why I brought it up, because if we close down in April, we could give $20,000, you know, give or take $5,000, whatever it is, to maker effects. And they right now are running like a 40 by 40 booth at MegaCon in a couple weeks. And they're fully staffing it for the entire weekend with more than a dozen people. So like, that's where I'm coming from. You know, whatever we decide, we either need more engagement long-term or the lab will die, whatever we decide.
I was gonna say, one of the things that's important is it seems like no matter what option we choose, we still have to move. Doesn't seem like we have much of a choice on that, even with a negotiation with the landlord, the cost and everything else. The question would then be, what equipment are we taking if we were to move? What equipment are we getting rid of? The way to get rid of equipment easily without the cost of rigging and all that stuff is auction it. So you bring in an auctioneer, and it not only is get rid of these pieces of equipment we just couldn't transport. They're too heavy, they're too big, they require 3 trays plus all the stuff we wouldn't necessarily get in a new location. And use that money as part of the money we would generate to actually do whatever moves we would do. In addition, it could become a big garage sale for anyone else that has to get rid of stuff. You bring in an auctioneer and you have to do it for you.
What we were gonna start doing after the meeting was start tagging machines.
Right.
This is member owned.
Regardless of if we're moving or not, we're tagging machines. Right now, unless I can get every single person to show up tomorrow and start playing with the Haas, we're tagging the machine that Haas show.
Lily, take it with you.
And that's only if you can get Nick to show us how to use it.
Lily knows too. There's at least 5.
She's
people
leaving.
that know.
Can't just jump straight to the hot.
I'm just saying, like, that's obviously something that's not being used. And prove me wrong and it'll stay, but I mean, the biggest point is we have to make an effort for the big stuff to leave, regardless of if we're leaving or not.
And if we can get a couple grand and somebody to take it away for us, great. That's money.
It's a requirement of the auction that they have to bring, we assign a rigger and they have to pay for the rigging, whatever the rigger.
So
was
that's
charged.
one thing, hold on, that's one thing I've been asked a lot of is, like, your vote might be based off of what goes with, and I understand that is, you know, that's a good point, and I don't know, it's just a good point. Like, if you say, yeah, let's move, and then the machines that you want to use don't end up moving, you know, you're shit out of luck at that point. But the point is right now is we don't even know what size we're going to get or going to be able to get, so we don't really know what's a viable option. We can say what we are trying for and what we're hoping for, but I mean, I could say we're hoping for everything, but it's not going to happen. So, I mean, it's hard to give you that answer. We're under a lot of unknowns right now.
The more machines
Unfortunately.
we get rid of now, if the lab does really well, it means we can buy much newer, much nicer stuff in the future.
Yeah.
Or get them donated.
Yes. You know, whatever the case is.
Or whoever.
Or another airport might close and say, hey, you got something.
And we'll say no.
Hang on, guys.
So is the urgency of tonight's vote over the $7,000 that we get back?
8,500.
8,500 and
essentially
willingness
1 month's
to
rent.
get rid of the big machines for us if we can't.
It's also think about it this way, and I hate to be a dick about it, but if you guys vote that way that you want to move, but then like change your mind tomorrow, I am about to spend a lot of time again looking for a space. Hopefully I can get help doing it, but we're going to spend a lot of time looking for a space and prepping for that move. So please vote based off of what you actually think is viable, not because if you don't want to move, I'm not going to put as much effort into something like that. I don't have to drive around.
miles away, so I'm just.
But yes, it's in part the money because $8,500 is a good chunk of money for, if we move to a smaller space, it's a couple months
Plus
rent.
our security deposit.
What's that?
Plus our security deposit.
No, it's
No, that's
6,000 plus
including-
our security.
Oh,
That's
oh.
8,500.
8,500.
Damn it.
2,500 plus.
So how much are we looking to spend per month for a space?
Quick math shows around 2,000. I posted it, I think, in the chats. I mean, it was something like about 2,000 a month.
2,000 to 2,500.
2,000 to 2,500 a month.
Given current projections.
Yeah, remember, this is all based on current projections. This is based on people not showing up is why the meeting's here. It's based on our assumption that we're going to lose 20% of members because we're going to move. It's also based on, the current set of the building. I mean, if we move to a new space and we have every single day is filled up with events and we grow really big, I mean, now we have, funds to go somewhere else or expand or whatnot. But we can only base it off of trends. We can't base it off of assumptions at this point.
In the move, are you looking definitely that we need three-phase electric or not?
I don't think we need it anymore considering the Haas and the Comet.
It would be very nice to have. I do not think it's a requirement.
And
What
this is
about
a
all those
solvable
other-
problem with an additional piece of hardware. Don't worry about it now. That's like low. Same with like carrying any machine tools along with us. Those can all be easily replaced with smaller models that cover most people's needs and for quite reasonable amounts of money. So I would say the machine shop, as much as I love it and it's, it was my home for a good few years. That can be compressed and still be functional for the same introductory purposes and small projects. So in welding, that can be compressed. And even if we don't have high amp 240 volt, people can tack together their projects. And if you need to do high power stuff, there are other ways.
The other thing is that I can say that all the spaces, granted, I was looking at 2,500 at the time. Every one of those spaces had three-phase. So I know a lot of people are telling me three-phase is going to be hard to find. I didn't experience that, but that might have just been because of the size I was looking for. So it's possible that, especially if we end up going to an office space, then yeah, we're not going to have.
Sub 2,000 square feet, it gets rare, but above that, it's like everywhere.
All right, well, that makes sense.
If you're looking for spaces, remember that we are a commercial entity, and so homes are often not good spaces. Places with very, very small parking lots with like 2 spaces are not very good spaces.
Yeah.
So anywhere near.
That's another problem.
Without-
That's another problem with going to a small space is even at all the 2,500 square foot ones I saw, the one with the most parking was only 4 spots, but if you block the bay doors, you could add another 3 to 4. Yeah, but that was max. Now nights and weekends are entirely different. The broker said don't even worry about nights and weekends. You can park wherever you want. There was parking like across the street at like shopping centers and whatnot, but I mean, it's just something to consider. But downsizing is going to be an inconvenience all around, not just the fact that it's downsized and that we're moving.
And officially, we only have what, 8 spots right now?
6.
6.
Yeah. Well, we have 6 parking spots. plus
Sure, in the
our
daytime,
bay,
it's good.
which we can utilize.
Right. Same with the concept of the bay. You can park in there.
I just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry. One of the reasons why, and if I'm a little frustrated, I apologize. One of the reasons why when we have our annual meeting every year that we go over the history of FamiLAB is because it's very important to remember the history of a place that you're at. Because we started at 800 square feet. We couldn't pay our bills, and so we halved our size to 400 square feet. If this sounds familiar, it's because it is. We overextended ourselves. Rent went up. We
That
couldn't pay our bills.
timing of
Yep.
the pandemic, I mean, it's
There was
everything.
Yeah, it was, and at that point, we were dealing right post crash of 2008. So,
Here's the thing, we're a community,
Yep.
and honestly, all it really takes for a makerspace is 2 printers and a cheap Chinese laser.
It doesn't take that. It takes some people getting together in a space with common interests. That's it. We had nothing. When we started, people brought some random CRTs and some old computers from the garage and a black couch. That was it. That's what we started with. That black couch lasted a real long time.
It landed.
It's 10 o'clock. Some people are phasing out over there, and we need to kind of move along. So those of you who have already voted through email, I appreciate that. We need to have some kind of, who's going to do a head count? I just well, I mean of the number of members that are.
Technically speaking, you or I should do that.
Okay, you got it. All right.
Thanks for volunteering.
Been voluntold.
I've been up the whole time.
Also Roger, because he had to leave.
Okay. He also voted for me. Is he double voting?
No, just the head count.
Chicago
Adam,
Oh.
Make sure
you
to-
said
We already
that
voted.
if we voted via email already but wanted to change our vote in person, we could.
Yes.
So how do you get rid of my vote earlier, just to keep that?
If you already voted.
Basically, if you already voted, don't vote now.
But
That's
I'm
all.
changing my vote.
So send
Then
another
go ahead.
email. Send
I'll
another email.
change.
vote twice.
Okay.
And not double.
I can tell you where it's going to go regardless. I already know. All right. Who's voting the move? Raise your hands.
I've already voted.
That's what you thought, right?
Okay. Not even going to ask the other one. Because we have 16 to like 5 already that we're going to move. So it's obvious that everybody wants to move or give the opportunity to move.
To a more compact and leaner and surviving
Yes.
FamiLAB.
Keep in mind,
Which means we are going to be getting rid of a lot of things.
yes,
A lot of
Like a house.
if you have stuff here, please do something with it.
Yep.
We are going to be reaching out to everybody that we know owns stuff, but we don't know you own it. It might just go away. We're going to be putting stuff on Purge Table. Keep an eye on Slack. That's another thing I wanted to point out. We don't seem to have a lot of people in Slack actively, and that's kind of our number one communication tool.
And if you post in Discord, it'll be seen there too. So-
Right. Just remember that it's whether you like Slack or not. That's the number one way to communicate. So again, I've been asked a bunch of questions that are always answered in Slack. So that's where it's going to go. That's where all the communication is going to go. And
We will spin up a moving channel, probably tomorrow, to coordinate everything.
We should
and
just
give
do it in the
status.
general channel because
Yeah,
spinning all
we're
the
not-
people have to join.
we don't need another channel.
Just do it lab up.
We have Purge, we have Stock Exchange.
Everyone should be in lab ops.
Yeah.
Lab Ops is where we can do the planning for.
And you're automatically joining the lab ops once you join Slack, so you're already there.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it.
Anything that's going away, like to the trash can, will be part of Purge. There will be a designated Purge area for it. Don't start taking things that aren't yours
Yep.
from anywhere else.
Are we keeping the
We
same
need-
time frame on the first table meeting?
No, that's
No.
just go over all that.
Can we,
Now, Purge will be a lot faster. I'm not sure what it's going to be right now. It depends on how quickly we can move stuff around.
It will be communicated.
But it will be communicated in Slack. That was kind of my point about Slack.
we do need to find an auctioneer if we're gonna do something with that equipment, get rid of it. We're gonna get an auctioneer.
I have some contacts for at least the machine tool stuff. I don't know that an auction is the best way. They usually need more time. Also, our value here, it may not be worth their time. It's probably best pursuing other options first, but as a last resort, you could always look at that.
Again, I want to pause. Every Sunday is the January cleanup. So for things like that, we'll meet Sunday, or you can always reach out to lab ops and whatnot. Let's not kind of drag this out and discuss it here. Lab cleanup is noon on Sunday, every Sunday. We might keep an eye on the calendar. I might add more days now that we have a solution, have a process going.
And the calendar on the front page of FamiLAB.org is updated regularly.
You
So
can
it
add
is
that.
accurate. You can add it to your Google Calendar if you use that, or you can check the homepage. It's usually also up on the TV right here in the lobby.
You can add our Google Calendar to anything. Reach out to us if you have questions on how to do it. We'll help you.
At the beginning of the week, it posts in Slack.
Yes,
Yeah.
that too.
Do we know what day the dumpsters picked up?
Tuesday.
We are
Should
probably
we ask
going
to
to want
reschedule for
to
Monday?
Yeah.
That way after Sunday cleanup, it gets empty, and then if someone is here for the rest of the week, there's
You say Tuesday?
Yeah, it's Tuesday morning / midday.
It's a good point. We'll look into it.
The dumpster thing is maybe a different thing. We might want to
Maybe
get a bigger one.
put a reminder somewhere.
Yeah, we might even need to get a bigger one. We're gonna be getting rid of a lot of stuff, but can you do me a favor and send me a reminder? Shoot me an email or message and Slack or something. Lab ops or something.
In a couple places, if the dumpster is overflowing, they will not pick it up.
Yeah,
So it's better to just like leave the trash by the bay or something.
especially if it's heavy shit.
Also, once it goes in the dumpster, if you want to take it from the dumpster, it's yours. Please don't ask us. If it's
Yeah.
already in the dumpster, please take it.
Yes.
What's the idea with the purge area? Purge area is.
Right, Gene?
Well,
Is he still here?
Yeah, purge area is also gonna be free flowing. Once it goes to the purge area, it's only gonna have so much time, so if it's something you want, take it, get rid of it.
Thank you for coming out.
Yes, thank you,
What?
everyone.
We're not done.
Hang on, we're not done, we're not done.
We're not done,
If you
little
take
bit
it from
more.
the purge table, post and purge
Yes.
that you've taken it, so that if it does turn out, someone's like, oh, fuck, that's mine.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard that. You take it from the purge table, post in Slack that you took it, in
Take a
case
picture
something
of it.
happened and it wasn't supposed to go to purge, then we can get it back to the right form.
Claim it first, say that you've taken it.
Right.
When you take it.
And make sure
That
your
way we
stuff
have
is
a trail.
labeled here to begin with,
Yeah.
so it won't reach purge in the first place.
Grab a roll of blue tape, put your name on it.
Or white tape. Or red tape.
Or yellow tape.
Or
mark it
any-
straight on it.
Yep.
Or any tape that's like, not Scotch or mini.
That would be.
All right, I think we can conclude it now. If you guys have any other questions, I'll be around for a little bit. I'm always available in Slack. Yeah, whatever.
Thank
Phone
you,
number,
everyone.
call or text me, whatever you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by, thank you
Thank
for
you,
showing
for
up,
the work you do.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
And stay
You're
awesome.
gonna have to explain this to me.
Thank you, everybody, who dialed in to be here.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're just as important